Welcome to In the News with Double O Des. I'm Des Bernardo, giving you my perspective on news from South Africa and the rest of the world.
I have not covered any news from overseas in the past, but now there's an article that I need to cover with regards to Hong Kong and something that China has recently done. And this is fully in line with the New World Order ideology, and China is obviously one of the countries that have rolled out the New World Order ideology to quite a length and degree. And what we need to discuss is what they are doing with regards to internet restriction. And this article from The Guardian, the headline reads, China's Great Firewall Descends on Hong Kong Internet Users. And you must understand that this is something that will be rolled out worldwide. So it's definitely coming our way. It is something that New World Order ideologists have to implement to control people. So they will always try and propagate a reason for people to think that it's okay for them to impose this. So it won't just be forced on people. In this case, China is very different. But in the rest of the world where we live in so-called democracies, they will try and make things happen within the country that will make you actually want this. And I want you to look out for the telltale signs of this starting to happen within our own government. And you'll actually see that the ruling party and the opposition parties, they'll actually start speaking about this, and they'll actually start calling for things like this in future. They've already started doing that behind the scenes. So the subheadline reads, residents rush to erase digital footprints as law gives police powers over online activity. At midnight on Tuesday, the Great Firewall of China, the vast apparatus that limits the country's internet, appeared to descend on Hong Kong, unveiling expanded police powers as part of a contentious new national security law. The Hong Kong government enabled police to censor online speech and force internet service providers to hand over user information and shut down platforms. Yes, people, this is where we're headed. An Orwellian society. Many residents, already anxious since the law took effect last week, rushed to erase their digital footprint of any signs of dissent or support for the last year of protests. Charles Mock, a pro-democracy lawmaker who represented the technology sector, tweeted, "We are already behind the de facto firewall." Hong Kong is facing a dramatic decline of one of its most important advantages, a free and open internet, a defining trait that sets it apart from mainland China, where Facebook, Twitter, Google, and most major foreign news sites are blocked. The prospect of China of Beijing-style internet controls where residents are not just restricted but monitored and punished for what they post online while companies are forced to censor their platforms is worrying for citizens, activists and businesses in Hong Kong. I would assume that many people would actually leave the area. I can't imagine anyone trying to actually live in such a society. But there's obviously the people that will want something like this. They will want these strict controls, and all you have to do is cause a bit of chaos, a couple of pogroms, and this is what you'll have. The law gives authorities the power to demand individuals and service providers remove content or access to content deemed threatening to national security. Non-compliance can result in fines and imprisonment for company staff or individuals. Police investigating national security cases can surveil communications and confiscate electronic devices. Now, this is just being openly done over there. This is already the case in many places worldwide. So it's not like you are not being surveilled currently, you are. It's just this is becoming blatantly obvious. And what this causes is people start to pimp on each other. They start to turn on each other. And your best neighbor now can become your worst enemy. And this divide and conquer method is extremely effective. When they come with their new society and their new world order that can stop all this tyranny. And people will embrace it with open arms when they were the actual cause of the reason for people wanting this new world order society. I quote, The law seems to be building up the Great Firewall locally in Hong Kong. Personal freedom on the internet will be eliminated, said Charles Low, the chairman of the Hong Kong chapter of the Internet Society. I continue the quote. If you say something wrong, they can request a service provider to give your IP address or mobile number so they can grab you, close quote. After the new measures were announced late on Monday, Facebook, Microsoft, WhatsApp, Google, Twitter, Telegram and others said they would not process information requests from the government until they had reviewed the law. TikTok, owned by the Chinese company ByteDance, said it was leaving Hong Kong altogether. Interesting development there. Open quote, we used to be an internet and telecom hub in the region. Companies moved services from the mainland to Hong Kong and now Hong Kong has become like China. So they will leave, said Mock. Close quote. Protesters who have relied on digital tools over the last year to mobilize demonstrations now find those same platforms could be used against them. Remember I told you this is where you go beyond the point of no return, when you can't assemble anymore, where there's full control of your movement and you won't be able to rise up or actually resist what these evil regimes are doing. Political groups have already disbanded and formerly outspoken activists have quietly left social media, while others have deleted old comments. I quote, we had freedom before and now it is being taken away. It is extremely painful for me to experience that, said Glacier Kwong, a digital rights activist. And I continue the quote, there will be a loss of information available to the public because people are afraid to speak up. They are controlling the discourse, how people can think about things and what they can think about. It's very dangerous, close quote. Now I've been speaking about this New World Order society openly for a very, very long time. And if you think that this is not a serious matter or conspiracy theory, all I'm doing on this channel is to provide you with evidence. Here I'm providing you with evidence. If you think that this will not happen here, I will highlight for you what the parties, even opposition parties, have been doing behind the scenes to bring controls like this to a suburb near you. That they've actually started doing this already. That they're already monitoring us with their little cameras. That information is being stored outside of this country and be passed on to New World Order agencies. And we are being sold out by people that we elected. Let's carry on. Experts say it is precisely because Hong Kongers use digital tools so effectively against the Beijing-backed government that authorities are now targeting the online space. The movement that erupted last year managed to mobilize itself without leaders through platforms such as LIHKG Forum and messaging app Telegram, with a level of organization that Beijing has tried to point to as evidence to claim the demonstrations are coordinated by foreign forces. So what they're trying to say is that the people in Hong Kong are actually not against the Chinese government, but that it's foreign forces controlling these people and therefore influencing the actions within Hong Kong, especially the protests. I quote, it comes back to how effectively Hong Kong used the internet to crack down on the protests. You've got to take away that tool, close quote, said Elise Thomas, a researcher at the Australian Strategic Policy Institute focusing on internet freedom. Experts point out that China's Great Firewall, which allows the government to inspect data as well as block IP addresses and domain names, could not be immediately replicated in Hong Kong, home to several private internet service providers and internet exchanges. And I quote, it will take at least a few years to build up the wall, close quote, said Lau, adding that what is more likely is a partial blackout cutting off access to certain sites such as LIHKG or Telegram. Others worry the measures could go even further than in mainland China. The law covers not only permanent residents and foreigners within Hong Kong, but anyone seen as violating the law, regardless of where they are in the world. Did you hear that? The security law may also add to the balkanization of the internet, with countries having their own fenced-off versions, and major international tech companies will be under pressure not to contribute to that. So to make clear, They say here, anyone seen as violating the law, regardless of where they are in the world, so even people outside of the country. I quote, if we've been talking about the splinter net and the idea of these cracks skewing through the ice, the national security law is really an ice pick. Close quote, said Thomas. I open quote, it's driven a nail in. It is driving those cracks much deeper and faster than before. Close quote. So what is happening here is there's a divide being created by China between various countries and the way that they're actually administering the internet. And you must understand that New World Order agendas are being driven by countries like China and many other countries. I mean, governments are used to actually propagate all the actions that they need to get control of the entire world, because that is the end goal, to have a one world government, a one world leader, and a one world religion. And China is certainly at the forefront of that work, and Russia is not far behind. I'm not saying that Vladimir Putin is a proponent of this, but within his country, the finances are still governed and run by the Rothschild family, the same as in China. So those countries are rolling out all these control mechanisms, and it'll spread from there to the rest of the world. And we know South Africa's relationship with China. I've already done a video on China in Africa, and I will still do the video on China in South Africa specifically. I want to carry on. One goal of the restrictions in Hong Kong could simply be making access to certain platforms and technology difficult enough that regular citizens will not bother. A strategy analysts say authorities also use on the mainland. So these are things that have been happening for a very, very long time. And it's no different right now. We experience this in South Africa too. But Hong Kongers, accustomed to decades of unrestricted access to information, may not be so easily deterred, since Beijing announced its plan in late May to enforce a security law. Searches and purchase of virtual private networks and proxies to hide IP addresses have soared. So these people are trying workarounds at this stage. Many have migrated from Telegram to the encrypted messaging app Signal, and some residents have turned to SIM cards from providers in other countries. Kwong said it is not just young protesters who are taking action. Her parents recently moved their family group chat to Signal. I quote, people are indeed kind of panicking and trying to install VPNs and have no idea what it can and cannot help. So they are basically trying anything they can. They actually don't know if it'll make a difference. Close quote. This is what Lau said, noting that volunteers have been holding workshops to teach residents how to use such tools and how to better protect themselves. And I quote again, I have faith in Hong Kong people. They will not forget about the freedom we once had. Close quote. Now let those not be words that ring out within South Africa. We have a chance here in this country to stop this from happening. And as I travel around the country, as I meet with you, and I once again thank all of you that have made the effort to meet with me, as I meet with you, I will be speaking about our freedoms being taken away in detail and what we can do about that, because it's very important that we actually take action. I know this has been a fairly long video, but a very important one. I want you to please share this with your friends and family. It's very important that people know where the world is headed and how the New World Order is actually implementing their actions on a worldwide scale. Remember, they don't choose any specific political system to implement what they want. They'll use communism, capitalism, socialism, anything. They can manipulate all of that as long as they control the money behind the scenes. Till the next video.